Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and for this video I'm going to be going through all the Blu-rays and DVDs that I picked up in the month of May. This doesn't include the HorrorCon pickups. I showed them a couple of videos back, so feel free to check that video out. Got some pretty unique stuff there, but this is some additional stuff that I got this month, so let's get straight into it. First up from Vinegar Syndrome is 5 Women for the Killer, which is a giallo release from them. Not had time to check it out yet. My slipcase came with a little bit of damage, but I did get in touch with Vinegar Syndrome and they're going to send me a new slipcase out with my next order. They're pretty good for things like that. But yeah, looking forward to checking this one out. Vinegar Syndrome have released a lot of giallo over the last few months, so yeah, hopefully this will be a good one, and yeah, I'll check it out soon. Next up from Unearthed Films is 100 Tears, which is kind of like a low-budget indie kind of film about this killer clown and these reporters that are sort of trying to track him down and find out if the legend behind him is true, and he is in fact going around killing people with like this giant meat cleaver weapon. The movie's okay. It's got some great gore in it. The gore hounds will really like the effects that are in this movie. I didn't think there was too much with the clown. He was just kind of like a guy in a suit. Didn't really say much or do much, but yeah, the movie was okay. Kind of in this day and age, if you want to see like a gory killer clown film, you've kind of got the Terrifier movies, which in my opinion were better than what this was. So yeah, I was kind of hoping for a bit more from this movie, but it was okay, and like I say, it had some good gore effects in it, which were pretty cool. Next up from Scream Factory is American Gothic. This was a cool one. I like this. This was like a group of kids, and they have plane trouble, and they have to land on like this sort of quiet little island, and it's home to this kind of strange family who are sort of living in like the 1920s. They're really old-fashioned. The father is played by Rod Steiger, and they kind of, there's like an immediate bad vibe. They don't get on with each other. This group of kids and this family, there's conflict pretty much straight away. And then things start to get more weird, and the kids start to get killed off, so they have to try and find a way off the island. But yeah, it was pretty cool. A lot of it was almost like survival horror, where they're trying to get through the wilderness and things and get away from this family. And yeah, there's some cool deaths in it towards the end. And yeah, I like this one. It was a good one. It's been recommended to me a few times over the years, so yeah, finally got around to checking it out, and I did enjoy this one, which was good. Next up is a film called The Barons, which purports to be about the legend of the Jersey Devil, which I think is the first film I've got that covers that sort of urban legend. I was kind of hoping for more of a creature feature movie. It's much more like a psychological film. It's this guy, and he takes his family out in the woods, and sort of weird things start to happen. It all starts to go a bit wrong, and it's more of a focus on the father's psychological breakdown. He has like weird visions and nightmares, and starts to get all paranoid, and just sort of like starts to get all Jack Torrance on them. So I don't really know why they linked it to the Jersey Devil. It's really not about that. As I say, it's more of a psychological affair. It's a pretty good movie for what it does. Like I say, I was just expecting more of a creature feature film, and that's not what I got. But in terms of a psychological movie set in the woods, it was pretty good in that respect. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome is Biohunter from Japan, I think. This is a zombie film from the late 90s or 2000, around that mark. It looks pretty cool. Not had a chance to watch this one yet, so if anyone's seen Bio Zombie, let me know what you thought. Next up is an interesting release from Vinegar Syndrome. Interesting because this is an old film. It's from 1946, so not really the kind of decade that Vinegar Syndrome usually release. But this was a cool film. It's more of like a murder mystery, and it's like one of these old-fashioned sort of old dark house mysteries, where there's a group of people and someone gets murdered, and they are trying to find out who did it, but it kind of has to be someone in the group. So yeah, they're trying to deduce things and find out who's who. And there's something about a black cat in it, which sort of holds the key to the mystery or something, but that was kind of lost on me. I didn't quite get that bit. But as a standard sort of vintage murder mystery, this one was pretty good, and I liked it for its sort of old-fashioned, moody atmosphere. So yeah, pretty cool release there from Vinegar Syndrome. Next up is a movie that's been out for quite a while now, but I'm only just getting around to seeing it, and that is Clown, which I thought was a really good film. I was expecting kind of a standard killer clown movie, but this one is much more like a body horror kind of thing. So it's this guy who sort of just puts this mysterious clown outfit on as part of his son's birthday party. But after the party, he can't get the suit off. He can't get the wig off. He can't get the nose off, and kind of slowly the clown suit starts to become one with him. It all starts to weave into his body, and yeah, it gets a bit crazy over that. It affects his psyche, and he starts to kill people with it. So yeah, really interesting film. It's got some good kills, and like I say, the body horror aspect of this was very interesting and had some good effects in it. So yeah, one that's taken me a while to get round to seeing, but I did enjoy this movie. I thought it was pretty good. Next up, we have another clown one. We have the Clown Doll. This was another one that I enjoyed, and this is this woman. She buys this new house. She's like starting over again in life. She buys this new house, and she's in this sort of like, sort of like bric-a-brac type shop, and she sees this sort of clown doll sat on a chair, and she feels compelled to buy it, and she takes it home, but it's like this creepy doll, and it starts killing people off that come into the house, unbeknownst to this woman. And then also she starts getting mysterious phone calls from somebody who like claims to have the wrong number, but it's actually the clown that's communicating with her. That was quite a nice touch. I quite like that aspect of the film. But yeah, this one was a good one. Creepy sort of clown doll movie. My only issue with this is how anybody would be feel the need to see this in a shop and buy it and put it in their house. It's so creepy. I certainly wouldn't want to bring it home with me. But apart from that, I did think The Clown Doll was a pretty good movie. I know Alan Scouse has talked about this one a few times. He likes this one. I think I got it recommended from him. So yeah, thank you for that, Alan. And yeah, I thought this was a decent movie too. Next up from Arrow, I picked up the Count Yorga collection, which has both of the two movies that they made. So Count Yorga Vampire and The Return of Count Yorga. These movies aren't too bad. They're kind of like Hammer horror style movies with Robert Quarry as Count Yorga, the vampire figure. They're okay. They were not as great as what I remember them being, but I did enjoy watching them. And nice to have this set with both of them on Blu-ray. So yeah, I do recommend picking this up if you're interested in the movies. It's a nice set. So yeah, not the best from sort of like that 70s vampire time, but pretty good. And Robert Quarry is particularly good as a Count. I did enjoy him in those movies. Next up, this was a bit of a hidden gem from Vinegar Syndrome. This is Curse of the Blue Lights, which is a film that I'd not heard of before until Vinegar Syndrome put it out. But I really like this one. This was a pretty entertaining movie, and it's a kind of a strange one. It's got quite a lot going on in it, but it's like these group of kids that sort of open or unleash this kind of other dimension where these demons and monsters are living, and they sort of cross over, and they're coming after the kids, and they want to like sacrifice one, and sort of weird and supernatural things are happening. But yeah, this is one that I did really enjoy. They're very creative. Not a sort of a dull moment in this either. They've got a lot of ideas that it was throwing out, and it handled them pretty well. There's a lot of horror films out there which are a lot more famous than this, and that were actually pretty boring. So credit to this for having a lot going on in it and for keeping it entertaining. And there were some good effects in it. I like the sort of interdimensional aspect of it. They handled that well, and I like the makeup and the creature effects and things like that. So yeah, if you want to see a bit of a quirky 80s monster movie, definitely check out Curse of the Blue Lights. I think this was a pretty good one from Vinegar Syndrome, and a pretty underrated kind of obscure 80s movie. So yeah, I did enjoy this one. It surprised me a little bit. Next up from Saturn's Core is Deep Undead, which I'm kind of intrigued to see this one because it's like a zero budget shot on video movie, but it's about kind of like, I think, these zombie creatures that come out from the water. So I'm intrigued to see how they portray that in such a low budget film. I'm sure it will be nowhere near as spectacular as what I'm imagining. but we'll see what it's like. If anyone's seen Deep Undead, let me know what you thought. Let me know what I can expect. So yeah, should be an interesting one. Okay, next up is a movie called Eat Brains Love, which is another kind of indie type movie, but this one feels a bit more big budget than some of the other ones. But this is like a sort of romantic road movie zombie comedy kind of thing, and these sort of comedy zombie films are not really my favourite sort of movies. They don't often land very well with me. But this one was okay. It was a decent effort. It's these two high schoolers, and they sort of become zombies, and they kill all the kids in their school. So they go on the run, they hit the road, and they've got a few authorities chasing them down and things like that. So it's okay. It's very much kind of like sort of zombies are people too kind of humour, which is okay. It's just, I was sort of raised on like the Lucio Fulci zombies and George Romero zombies. So these more whimsical comedy zombie ones don't often do it for me, but this one I'd say is one of the better ones, and got some great gore and zombie effects in it. I'll give it that. Yeah, not necessarily my type of go-to film, but I did get enjoyment out of it. It was a decent effort. Next up from Scream Factory is The Final Terror, which was a pretty cool killer in the woods kind of movie. A group of teenagers go out for like a camping trip in the woods and are stalked and killed off by this seldom seen killer. So yeah, it was not too bad. It's got a young Joe Pantoliano in this and a few other recognisable people. I really like the cinematography and the look of the woods and all the sort of the nature shots and things like that. I do like that kind of thing in a horror film. I could have done with a little bit more happening in this one. It does take a while to get going, but on the whole, it was not a bad sort of slasher in the woods movie, and nice to get this as well. I think this has been out quite a while from Scream Factory, so yeah, good to finally check this one out. Next up from Saturn's Core is Guilty Pleasures, which I believe is just another like shot on video slasher type movie. To be honest, I think I just picked this one up to bump up the price and get a free shipping, if I'm honest. But I will check it out. It might surprise me. It might be a bit of a hidden gem. We'll see. So yeah, if anyone's seen Guilty Pleasures, let me know what you thought of this one. Next up, I picked up I Spit on Your Grave 2, which is the sequel to the remake. And this was okay. You pretty sort of, you kind of know what to expect, the sort of typical rape revenge kind of thing now. But in this one, this young woman, she like wants to be a model or something like that. So she goes to this photo shoot, but it's all run by these creepy guys. So she gets out of there, but they track her down to her apartment, and then one of them sort of horribly violates her, but they take her with her and kidnap her and keep her in this basement because they can't have her sort of getting out and saying what they did. But she does get out and then takes a brutal revenge against them. So yeah, it was okay for what it was. I like that they kind of added a bit more to the story in terms of then having to kidnap the woman and yeah, she does get her revenge in some pretty nasty ways. So yeah, for what it was, I thought this was an okay sequel. So next up is an upgrade for me. I picked up the Redemption Blu-ray of Oasis of the Zombies. I had the old snapper case DVD of this, which I'll always replace them if I can. And Oasis of the Zombies is probably one of my favourite Jess Franco films. I think he does do a pretty good job with this one. It's slow burn, but I really like the atmosphere that he sets in this one, and it's set in the desert, and they really sort of make use of the desolate feel, and really love the shots of the zombies coming over the sand dunes. That was a really well done scene. So yeah, as far as Jess Franco movies go, this is one of his better ones, and one of my favourites that he did. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking this one out on Blu-ray and just seeing what it looks like. Next up is another upgrade, actually, from a snapper case from Scream Factory. This is Of Unknown Origin, which is one from, I think it's 83, and it's Peter Weller, and he has like this rat monster living in the walls of his house, and he sort of tries to do battle against it and catch it and kill it. I haven't seen this for many, many years. It'd be good to watch it again. I remember it being pretty slow the first time I watched it, and it's more about kind of the mental breakdown of Peter Weller rather than like a giant rat creature feature, which is what I was hoping for. But yeah, I will give this one another watch, and I'll reevaluate it, see if I enjoy it anymore. But yeah, nice to get the Blu-ray to this over the horrible snapper case thing. Next up is a movie called Prank, which was okay. It's like a handheld footage kind of thing, and it's about these kind of outcast kids, and they want to do a prank on the bullies and sort of teach them a lesson, but it all kind of just gets out of hand, and they really get into a bit of a mess over what they're doing. It's not so much horror. It's more of sort of looking into this story of them getting themselves too far into these silly pranks. But there are some horror elements to it. So it were okay for what it was, but not one that I'd sort of go crazy about or recommend all that much. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome is their 4K release of Primal Rage. This one, I was expecting more from this, to be honest. A little underwhelmed by this one, because I was really excited to get it, and I was looking forward to watching it. It's set on this sort of like college campus, I think, and they're doing like experiments on these baboons, and it makes them sort of rage out, and then they break out and attack a few people, and in turn it makes them all aggressive and sort of messes up their face and things like that. But yeah, this one was average. It's one that I watched right at the beginning of the month, and I've already forgotten about it, to be honest. So yeah, not one that did a whole lot for me, unfortunately. Next up is Project Metal Beast, which is a fun little movie. This one starts out pretty cool. It's these soldiers, and they're trying to get this sort of like werewolf blood or something. So the idea is to inject it into like a soldier and create like a super soldier to weaponize. And they get the blood and they take it back to the laboratory and try to create this sort of half soldier, half werewolf thing. But of course, it all goes wrong, and the creature escapes, and then there's sort of like this werewolf monster running around the lab, killing people. So yeah, starts out good, loses a bit of steam in the middle. It gets a bit slow with all the laboratory stuff, but then when the metal beast werewolf thing comes into it, it gets pretty cool. Kane Hodder plays the monster in it, and we do get a cool looking werewolf in the movie. I got to give it that. So yeah, it's a fun little, feels like a bit of a TV movie, or it's the kind of movie that Vinegar Syndrome would release, I reckon. So yeah, not too bad. Yeah, this one was okay for what it was. I enjoyed it. Next up, we have one of the best movies that I picked up this month, actually. From Scorpion, we have Raw Courage, which is a great movie. It's about these three long distance runners, and they are out running across the desert, and they run into like a group of sort of would-be amateur soldiers, I guess, and they come across them, and they have a bad interaction. They don't get on. There's some sort of choice words between them, a bit of tension, but they do let them go. But then from that, the soldiers sort of track them down on the motorbikes. They get into another altercation. I'm not giving anything away, but one of the runners gets killed. So the other two get away and kind of realise that these soldier people aren't going to let them escape either, because they've sort of seen too much now. So they have to try and get across the desert back to civilization with these sort of amateur soldier psychos tracking them down. There's a bit of like a cat and mouse thing going on. But really good film, very compelling, very exciting. Keeps you on the edge of your seat. It stars, and I think it was written and produced by Ronnie Cox. So bit of a passion project for him, it would seem. I mean, I know him mainly from like his villainous roles of the 80s, but he's really good in this as one of the runners. And the head of the soldiers is played by Emmett Walsh, who is a really good actor, pretty underrated, and it was good to see him get a bit more of a meatier role to play. So yeah, I really enjoyed Raw Courage. So it was a very good film. As I say, keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's exciting to watch, and like a good kind of survival horror. This one definitely gets the Horror Hands recommendation. Next up from Full Moon, we have Sideshow. This was recommended to me by Mac Washington, so thank you for that. I really like this. It was a fun full moon movie. So this bunch of kids, they go to a carnival, get a little bit on the wrong side of the carnival owners, and they kind of like start getting killed off, and they become these sort of grotesque centerpieces of the carnival sideshow. So really just lots of chances to see these really cool kind of practical effect creatures and things like that. But yeah, if you like full moon movies, I could definitely recommend checking out Sideshow. It was a fun one from them. Next up is a movie called Skeleton Man, which gets really bad reviews actually. Wherever you look, it's does not have very many good reviews. This one, but I wanted to get it because it stars Casper Van Dien and Michael Rooker, so pretty cool combo there. And this one is like these soldiers in the woods, and they are kind of stalked and hunted by this skeleton figure on a horse. He's running around after them, and he can also turn invisible as well. So there's almost like a predator element to this, albeit nowhere near as good. It was okay for what it was. Casper Van Dien and Michael Rooker have very little to do in the movie. They're in it, but they just don't have much of a character. It did have a cool looking skeleton creature in it, I'll give it that. But yeah, it was okay, but nothing special. But yeah, okay for what it was. Next up, we have The Slime People, which is a very silly one, although rather entertaining one, from the 1950s. I can't remember what the plot was about. It's a very undemanding film with just these slime people creatures, and they're pretty much just wandering around in the suits, just people in rubber suits wandering around as these slime monsters. There's no kind of reveal or build up or anything like that. So yeah, not a great example of 50s horror, but I found it entertaining just because of how much screen time the monsters got. I don't know if anyone else would like it as much as me, but I had fun with it. Next up from Kino, I picked up the Undying Monster, which was a pretty cool one from the 1940s. More of a murder mystery than a monster movie. I think someone gets killed out on the moors, and like the police and the locals are sort of trying to establish what's happened. There's a bit of a legend about like a wolf beast creature that may or may not be true. So yeah, a pretty good one. Does have a bit of a monster element at the end, but this is another one that I just really liked for its 1940s ambience and the scenes on the marshes and the foggy atmosphere and things like that. It was a pretty good movie. Next up, I picked up the big Universal Monsters Blu-ray set, a really nice set. So I mentioned these on the channel a while back. I'm wanting to do a video eventually on Universal Monsters. I get asked to do that quite a bit, so I picked this up to get all of them because this has got all the sequels in and everything. It's got the Abbott and Costello movies, so yeah, everything's in here. So I just need to give myself time to rewatch them and watch some of the sequels for the first time, and then I'll think about putting something together and doing a video on these. It is something that I really like to do. It just takes a while to get through the movies, but yeah, this is a really nice Blu-ray box set. Really happy to get this and get all the Universal Monsters in one box set. So yeah, excited to dip into this and start watching them. And then the last thing I picked up from Vinegar Syndrome is the Vacation of Terror 1 and 2 set, which are Mexican movies. They're subtitled and they're not too bad. Vacation of Terror 1, it sees this family and they like inherit this summer house, although it's just this big decrepit house, and it's there's like a curse on it. There's some weird supernatural things start happening. There's like a bit of a possessed doll in it. It's very much suggestive. There's a bit of an Evil Dead vibe to it, but there's no kind of gore or creatures in it. It's more just this sort of haunted house. And then Vacation of Terror 2, which I thought was the better film. That one takes place at this birthday party, so it reminded me of Demons 2 a little bit. And again, these dark supernatural forces start to happen, weird stuff starts going on. But this one has a demon in it that is kind of the antagonist, and the sort of mouthpiece for what's going on, if you will. And I thought that worked a bit better than the unseen force from the first one. So yeah, the Vacation of Terror movies weren't too bad. I enjoyed them for what they were, and nice release there from Vinegar Syndrome. So that's everything that I got, guys, in the month of May. Feel free to let me know what you think of these movies. If there's any that you like or don't like, let me know. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.